Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of The Visitor. Today we have Cece from Trappalachia, and you're going to want to hear this because it's going to be a good conversation. Matter of fact, let's bring her in right now. Hello, Cece. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Excellent. So let's just get into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Okay, I am a radio DJ in the Appalachian Mountains, and I have a radio show that is based upon trap metal, which is ragecore rap. It's actually like a blend of heavy metal and rap artists, and then I also have other genre that I play, but I play things that are unusual that most people don't play on the radio. Acid, punk, psychedelica, ragecore rap, death metal, Appalachian death, just more unusual kind of sounds.
There's so many newer music these days. There's Soviet wave, there's dream wave, there's vapor wave, which I'm a big fan of. I like the sound of old malls, apparently. So, um, but it's very interesting how that has transpired. So tell us a little about your background, like who you are as a person, and sort of what your background in faith is. Like, what was your like? I guess the easiest thing to say would be the religious background. Like, what did you grow up in?
Well, both of my parents grew up in very strict Pentecostal homes, and in the time that they were young, that would have meant the folks they didn't adorn their bodies in any way. They had long hair. They didn't cut their hair. They didn't wear jewelry or makeup. They always wore a skirt. The females always had to have a skirt ankle length on. You went to church every time you absolutely possibly could. So that was kind of the home they grew up in, and they both had some experiences that they didn't really like growing up in Pentecostal homes. So when they married, they switched their faith and became Free Will Baptists. So I grew up knowing both sides of those Bible Belt Appalachian religions, and I also have been to churches where they do some stuff that most people would think was pretty insane. I've been to churches where they handle snakes and drink strychnine and things like that as well.
Now, it's interesting because I know both of those things. Religion has been a very um, interesting study of mine over the years, and I know about the snake handlers in West Virginia. They have them in West Virginia, and they handle them and they bite. But if you die from it, you didn't have enough faith, which is wild because I'm not letting anything that can. I'm not going to go out of my way to if I would get bit walking along a trail, fair enough, but I'm not going to go bring that thing that's on the trail to me and be like, let me see if I can get bit. And Pentecostal as well. Now I'm not sure if this is the case, but do they speak in tongues in
They do.
Pentecostal churches?
They do.
Very interesting because in the New Testament in Acts, when that actually happens, the tongue coming down was it was other languages because the other languages weren't understood by everybody.
Right.
So they had to have an interpreter for people there to understand. I've been to an apostolic church, which is very similar to a
Mm-hmm.
Pentecostal church, and they do very similar things.
Right.
And that's the first thing I question. Where's your translator? Do you not have a translator? You're supposed to have a translator. And they looked at me like I had worms coming out my ears. And I'm like, Acts tells you you have to have a translator here if you're going to have other languages because that's what that was.
Yes.
Pardon me. That's just, I like to put that out there because I think a lot of people think that just people saying gibberish, it just doesn't get it. Because I've been in that room and it's scary. It's very
It is.
scary.
I started experiencing that when I was a small child, when I was actually first visualizing and seeing those things go on and watching people crawl on the floor in the church and convulse
Hmm.
and speak in tongues as a child. That literally terrified me. I didn't know what was going on. It scared me. So until I got older and then understood it a little better. But mostly I only saw that at Pentecostal churches.
So how did that make you feel as a child? You know, obviously you're afraid, but in terms of like the faith aspect or the godly aspect of that, how did you feel about that? Because as kids, we look at God differently than we do as adults.
Um, I know what my parents said, but I know what I felt, and I felt like it was an overacting, being very dramatic. I just thought it was silly. After
Did
I got a little older, I was just like, what in the world? And that's what I felt about it. It didn't make me have any desire to go to the altar to, that's the goal every time you go to church.
right?
That they call you and want you to come to the altar and be saved. It didn't make me feel that way at all. It just, I hated it. It was strange to me.
Did it ever feel evil? Because I feel like something like that has that
It,
propensity
I
to
could,
breed evil.
yeah, I could see how it would have that connotation because these people would get on the floor and convulse. I mean, like,
Mm.
they would move up and down like a worm or whatever. And I thought that was super strange, but I never felt like it was evil because everybody that was doing it were people that I knew and that I loved and that loved me. I I had a neighbor, my next door neighbor, she actually went to the Pentecostal church where some of my family went, and we would go visit there sometimes, and I adored her. So I would go sit with her, and I wanted to be with her, and she would do it, and it didn't scare me because I knew those people loved me. So that was okay. I never really thought about it like that, truthfully.
Because if I saw something like that, it would make me question some things,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think that's part and parcel to the whole faith aspect is questioning what you're seeing because this doesn't feel it wouldn't feel right to me because once again I was in that like throng of people and they're busy just saying gibberish
Right.
and they're crying and I'm like I feel like you guys are putting on a show for each other to see who can out holy the other one. That's what it kind of felt like to me, but I was older. But as a kid, I feel like
Well,
that would be almost terrifying.
yes, it was scary when I first saw it. As I got older, I thought it was a show or acting, but I mean, when I was younger, it was more like I knew that they were I knew they were worshiping Jesus, and that aspect of it was okay with me. So that was okay. But as I got older, I thought it was ridiculous.
So as you're going through the church as you age, how does your faith change compared to what it was as a child?
Um, it has like really done a 180 because now I don't actually believe in most of any of those things. One thing I do like about that is if someone needs that and they need that type of enlightenment and draw to something better in their life and it's going to make them a better individual morally and that kind of thing, then I think that's great because if they so I feel like some people don't have the intellect to understand anything outside of that. So if that's what it takes to make them a morally good person or a better person, and they can do better in life and mentally do better, then I'm all for it. It's not necessarily for me though anymore. I mean, I had I had done it for years. I had been basically forced to go. I don't want to say that like it's mean because it made me a better person, but I just felt like there were a lot of times I just did not want to do it. It was daunting for me even as a younger teenager. I hated it.
I just sat in church and read the Bible. That's all I would do. I would find the nearest Bible and just start reading the Bible. Like I can go to the Old Testament. I'm fine here. Because like you, nothing ever seemed to make sense. It just, you know, you're I and I want to say that Free Will Baptist aspect. I've been to those churches.
Hmm.
I That was the church you get yelled at. They just get up there and they start yelling. I'm like, why are you yelling at me? Like, you know, I showed up here to
Yeah.
learn about Christ, to learn about God, and when you read the New Testament, Christ wasn't over there just yelling in people's faces. So it boggles my mind that people think that that is an acceptable way to talk to a person about God. You're enslaving, you're not saving, if
They
that
were,
makes sense.
yes. So I don't know outside of the Appalachian Mountains how that looks exactly, because they do get excited. They get up and they all jump and they like will talk so fast and hard that they have to take a breath and they make a noise when they do that. And it's something people around here would know what I was talking about, but I feel like if I tried to attempt to do it, it would be kind of making fun of them, and I'm not. It's just they get
No, that's fine.
to it, they have to
Of course.
and take a breath and to continue preaching. And it is, they're kind of yelling at you. It's very loud. It's very in your face. It could be, for somebody that would be new to that, it could be pretty intimidating for
Yep.
sure. Yeah.
It was intimidating to me, but that's because he's waking me up. I'm trying to sleep. Like I was trying to sleep in them pews because I'm young. I'm tired. Like I'm snoring in church.
I
Like
feel
100%.
I fell asleep a lot in church. My mom would like hit me and get up, and that was, I hated that. And then I was always digging through her purse to have something else to do,
Yeah.
uh, finding money or some weird church gum. And the old lady church gum. You
I
have,
do know the old lady or the old lady candy. There's either old lady church gum or old lady candy. Oh, I
I
see
think,
we have a visitor.
hey, oh yeah, hey, I don't know why he left. He usually
He's
did.
allowed to be. Like I'll talk to him too.
I didn't even realize. I'm so used to it. He lives on me if he can. So
He's sweet.
yeah, I saved him. I saved him. His head was a little bit bigger than a quarter when I found him, and he was
Oh,
he was emaciated and covered in fleas and anemic. And we got him about 2 weeks later. He was okay, and after that, he just follows me everywhere. So
I have two that would love to come in here and jump on everything I own because they're kittens. So I
exactly.
completely understand. So they're not allowed in here because if I open that door, you're gonna see one jump on my shoulder and then jump in the window.
Right.
No, not doing that. So here you are as the best thing I say because you and I are very similar in that regard. Like church just didn't make sense to us. We
Right.
knew there was something, but we didn't think it was there. We
Right.
realized there was something else to life, but we didn't think it was in that place. At least not for us. Like you, um, if that's how a person has to become a better person, I can respect it. I can respect that. It's
Absolutely.
when it's when they use that position or that status to lord it over you and think that they're better than you that I begin to have my problems.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
so so
I
you sing this, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I
no,
apologize.
okay. I was just gonna say, I think, as an Appalachian person living in very rural towns with extremely low populations, like most everyone knows everyone, it's very hard because people, if you don't believe exactly like they do, they're very offended by that. And and I found that people used to, years ago, I feel like my parents were more loving, but I feel like people now just kind of cast you aside. And from what I understood by being in those churches, is that's exactly the opposite of what they're supposed to do. And that's been a very big turnoff for me as far as the local religion here is, Pentecostal, Free Will Baptist, those kind of things.
And I think that's sad because, in my opinion, the church is supposed to be the place that's where you get godly knowledge. That's where you get wisdom. That's where you congregate with other folks of the same belief and you talk about it. But a lot of the times, especially in rural Appalachian places where you can't, like here, I can go to 5 churches right now and they're all going to be different denominations. Like I'm within a radius of like 5 churches. I have a Seventh Day Adventist, I have a Catholic, I have a Free Will Baptist, I have a regular Baptist, and then I'm Pentecostal, Apostolic. I have all of that within I would say, a 25-mile radius of my home. So it's, population density,
We
it's easy here, but there, where there's not that many people, and there's just like a majority that has that religious belief, there's really no room for anybody outside, and everybody else has to kind of play along with that.
That's kind of funny that you say that though. Within a 25-mile radius, I was just thinking about what you said, and I have at least that many within a 5-mile radius, and that's how it is here. There are that many churches; they are everywhere.
But
I
are
li-
they the same denomination, or are they varying denominations?
they're
Hmm.
varying dominate. Yes, dominations close.
That's a different show. That's a whole
That was
different
a
show.
Freudian slip, apparently. Sorry about
Or
that.
was it?
Well, I mean, maybe not. But yes, I mean, we have like, there's an old regular Baptist, Free Will Baptist, just Baptist, and at least Pentecostal within a 5-mile radius of my house. And it's like that most everywhere you go around here.
And that's interesting because they all seem to be the same belief system. Like Pentecostal, like they're very much the best way I can say this is they're the strict end of everything. Like it's always the strictest part of like show up to church, sweat most of the day if it's sunny outside because we don't have air conditioning, and you're all going to hell if you don't change your ways tomorrow. You better
It,
change your ways to right now, or you're all hellbound. And
yes,
that's what always for me threw me off because in my head I couldn't reconcile how a loving God, who in the book I'm reading, when I'm listening to these people yell at me, and he's loving people and doing things for people, even the Old Testament God, he still loves people, which is, it's the same God. And I'm like, where, where are you coming from? Because Christ here says, if you have to engage with your brother, you have conversations, you're not better than anybody else, you you're here to teach, you're not here to exalt yourself. He who is first shall be last, and he who is last shall be first. And it just it never sat right with me. It never sat right of an eternal damnation, which I don't believe in, and I don't personally care who. Like a lot of people know me. If anybody out there is a Calvinist, you're probably not going to be one of my favorite people, and I'm not going to be one of yours because I don't buy into the notion of eternal punishment. I can't. It doesn't. If a God is an all loving Father, He's not going to just throw His creations away in the trash to burn forever. It's very deep, and I don't know. I can go off on tangents, and I don't want to do that, so I apologize.
just just to add on to that, what you're saying, I understand. And growing up as a Free Will Baptist child, that is literally what it's about. You have the free will to choose, therefore, that is why that is to be so. You either choose him or you're damned. And
And,
that's it.
and that's why it never made sense to me because I would read and it would say, I know every hair on your head. I know what you're going to do before you're going to do it. So
Right.
free will never made sense to me. It just was ridiculous. Because how are you going to just allow people to burn? And there's
Well,
it's so
it
deep. It's deep.
it really scarred me probably mentally as a child,
Yes.
because in the churches that I went to, not they explained it like it wasn't just the burning in hell. You would have a gnashing of the teeth, which meant that the people there will basically gnaw on you because they can get no relief, so they're doing anything, so they will eat your flesh, and that you're damned to never have it completely ever rot away, and you're just an eternal hurt. And I know a minister, he would always discuss this. Like every time he preached to us, I literally hated to see this preacher come in and preach because it was the same sermon every time, and it was damnation and hell. You would be eaten by worms and people, or whatever they are, zombie people. And you wouldn't ever get any comfort. You would never have a drink of water, because even if the water touched your tongue, it would be so hot that it would evaporate, and you would never have any comfort. And that was so just scary to me. It was almost like a scare tactic to get you to get saved, and I
Yep.
thought that just is why would logically, as a good person who has good morals, I think, and I try to help people and I try to be good to people, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I thought it was just really scary, and that was a good way to scare a child away from the whole religion versus bring them in as loving and tell them loving stories. I would have been more receptive to that versus someone telling me I was going to, eternally hurt. So,
And the way I, when I meet these people that believe this, I believe so. You believe that God would resurrect your imperfect physical body so that you can then burn in an eternal fire, but your body isn't perfect in God. So it ends up driving people mostly mad, and I can't. But to me, it once you get away from that, that's how it was for me. And a big thank you to my father for showing me this because I've always been just fed up. I'm like, I believe in God. I know God exists. He's been there for me. He showed himself for me. But I don't buy what they're selling. I can't because they're not selling the right thing. They're taking chunks and they're trying to sell you on chunks to put you in a state of consistent fear because like we had talked about, if you put someone in a fear of life or death and that you can hold it over them and say, okay, if you give me your check this week, you're not going to go to hell, you know, they'll do it.
it's
And it's sad.
literally exactly what I'm thinking about. And I'm thinking about when you go back, if you go back to when men were writing the Bible, that's literally what they wanted was control of your money. And that makes more sense than eternal damnation and hurt.
I
So
think too, the message, while yes, men did write it, I think the message is still because I think there's I think God had his hand. I mean, I know he had his hand on it. So it's perfect, but mankind isn't. So
I
they've
agree.
twisted the translation so much. Like the KGV, King James was a horrible person. And nobody ever wants to talk about how bad of an actual human being he really was. Like he was
Horrible.
a bad person. So
Right.
you have to go because I have a few different translations. I use the literal concordant to basically read all of it. But it's very loving. It's very loving. It's a loving book, and they turn it into a hate-filled book, and it. I don't care for that.
So I went to a Pentecostal church as I got older. And the minister there, I think, is an absolutely wonderful intellect because the way he taught it, and this was a, one of the very large churches in our area, and he would teach it out of three different Bibles, like the NIV, the King James Version, and something else. And then he would go through and list those on big screens. They would all three stay up, and he would go through and explain it in each version of the Bible. And I felt like that gave somebody an informed decision to make their own decision about it. And that's the first time I'd ever went to a Pentecostal church and actually gotten something out of it that felt intellectual, which I was more receptive to versus the damnation
Yeah,
sermons. So that was good for me. And he's a really smart guy, and he has a large following, and he's an online presence as well, and I do like listening to him. I think he makes it he makes a layman understand it, which I love because that's what's needed. There are some people that will
yes.
get it, some people that won't, and so that is one of the churches that I do like actually think that I learned something at, which I love.
So let's get into it. What do you believe? Like, what do you
Woo.
ascribe to? Like, and listen, I was waiting for this. I'm really excited for you to talk about this because I believe
So
you should be heard.
So, like, I probably never could have voiced this opinion, yet as when I was younger, out of respect for my parents. And as much as I love them and what they taught me, and I felt like it gave me good morals, I just never felt like that was for me, which I think, a lot of my family would be very sad to hear, but they don't understand it for me. For me, stepping outside of that was a complete freedom because it didn't feel, it felt like it kept me held back, not moving forward. So now I'm more believe in myself as being God. And I don't mean that to sound cocky, but I feel like it's a universal thing. It's something that resides within inside of me. And that has freed me to feel very big about the universe and about um I don't know. Right now. I'm currently trying to learn. I always want to learn things. I'm one of those kind of people, but I'm trying to elevate myself. And when I say that, I, it's going to sound woo woo, so that's what it'll just be. But I just am trying to elevate myself to more like universal laws and being a good person and being having good morals and receiving. If I send out good energy, that can't do anything but come back to me. So it's more like an energetic and universal law. Um, I actually want to read some physics books now because of how I believe, because I think there is so much more to it than we could ever even conceive. So I now am in a race with my life to learn as much as I possibly can, and that's what I'm attempting to do. So I want to read every possible thing I can because I've just recently felt free enough to do those things. I had some really unfortunate things happen to me by association with another person, and that person passed away. And now that they've passed away, I'm having some extreme freedoms spiritually that I've never had before. Like, I literally sometimes feel like I could transcend outside of what you're seeing right now, which is a very strange feeling that I can't explain to anyone. It's my own personal journey, but it feels amazing. I feel like I'm almost pure light and could spread out into the universe at this point.
And while to some that may sound strange, it's
Yeah,
not it's not a new teaching. It's a very Gnostic style of teaching of wanting to transcend yourself. And while personally that's not how I view my life,
right.
I still respect your viewpoints and want to know more about it because God wants us to be kind to people. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not going to listen to any of these
I
preachers that get up there and jib
agree
jab.
with that 100%. And I mean, I am, that's another thing. I'm friends with a lot of people that I realize other people would not even attempt to associate with. And I really don't care what other people think because those people are also very interesting to me because I like to listen to their points of view. I have a few friends that have had some pretty bad things happen to them in life, and I don't feel like they've ever been given a really good upper hand in life. But I want to understand them and I want to be a good person to them because I know that they're, even if they may have done something bad, that they're not necessarily a bad person. I know that people make mistakes, even if that means some of the things that we consider the ultimate sins, like hurting someone permanently. Um, I think that still those people might have value, and where a lot of people would like to just get rid of them. Now, as far as like, and then you get into a whole different can of worms. So, with like who's valid on the
Of
earth,
course, of course. And I think there's very few people in my eyes outside of people that harm children that are valueless to me, and those people are valueless to me, and I will stand on this.
I will stand
Um,
as well. That is one thing that is near and dear to my heart. I will stand up for a child. Children are mentally, they cannot conceive of that, and that is wrong. That's somebody that doesn't get to a say so in that situation. And as far as humans, maybe animals, children, those kinds of things, elderly, sometimes
yes,
those people can't stand up for themselves because they don't have the capability of doing so, and those people are special, and those people
yes.
are be messed with, and anybody that does that, then yes, there may be a special place for them, a special
And
penalization for them.
it's interesting, and I want to point something out. Um, Being friends with people who the community would look down on, and I always go back to, well, Christ ate with prostitutes and tax collectors and sinners. Um, and so who are we to place ourselves on a pedestal above that? And for me, it's the same. Like, I want to know why you're the way you are.
Mhm.
Because I've known some people that have done some pretty rough things. Like, I've done some rough things, but they've turned out to be really good friends of mine and good people. And giving the chance to those people is important. And I think that it's great that you're doing that. You're doing something that most Christians would not.
Yeah, so I actually, with what I'm doing with my radio show, had organically picked up a following in the federal prison system, and they actually listen to my show, which is something that has been interesting for me. Those people all have stories, and the stuff that uh, goes on with them there is something that I never even thought about. And those things have been they've been interesting and yet hard to put a balance on because I don't I don't want to feel like I teeter either way. I just want to be um more of a bright spot in their week with my show and maybe help them transcend in their heads somewhere else and not there in their cell. And that's been something that I've attempted to do because not because, I think anything they could be there, whatever the reason they're there for is right or wrong, or if they're there by mistake or whatever. But that's not my place. But what I am attempting to do is at least let them have a maybe a couple hours to where they don't have to think about the situation that they're in. And that's been interesting because I do, like I said, I try to be good to most everyone if I possibly can.
And I'm in agreement. Like, I don't believe in treating people poorly just because you believe different than I am.
Right,
Because that's not right. I wouldn't want somebody to treat me poorly because of how I believe. So I'm not going to treat somebody poorly because of how they believe. If they want to know how I believe, I will freely tell them, and I will stand on what I believe in. But
and
as
that
far wise as forcing them to believe like me, I would never do that. That's not up to me. That's between God and them. I have no say so in what God does. I just do the
right,
best I can with myself.
right, and that's literally how I've always believed, but now even more so. I truly feel like all the good that I can do, I will receive it back.
And
And
I think too, we obviously don't do it so that we can receive it back. I'm not going out there and be like, I'm just going to be kind because I know I'm going to get it back.
I don't ever think about it,
I don't
but
either. Because to me, it's just something that should be natural. Because you never know what somebody's going through. You
right,
never know. Maybe somebody lost a relative or a friend, or maybe they're going through some hard times. And I try to do my best, and I'm not perfect because I have my days too, and we all have our days. That's life. But
right,
I think having the faith that I have, it allows me to have kindness for other people,
right,
because no matter what I'm going through, I have the faith that God will always look out for me. Always. I have, I have to have that.
And
So instead of stressing that, I push that into being kinder to other people who may have it worse than I do.
I have I have the same kind of faith, except it's something that I put out that I receive back that I already know it is. It is. It's
Right.
that's just and that's kind of how I believe. So it's more like a universal sound, a universal. I don't know. And a lot of people may say it's woo woo. Some people call it something completely different, but I think it's pretty much an energy thing. Um, and
Well,
that
Nikola Tesla talked about the universal consciousness that he was able to tap into to pull how he was able to create the Wardenclyffe Tower and things like that. So there is something there. There is something we all share. I mean, DNA themselves, DNA is a very interesting thing when you break it down, and they've said it contains so many of computer like gigabytes. It was a very terabytes. It was a very large number of
yes,
data when they when you can transfer it to data. That's kind of scary to me because now the government's involved, and like I said before, I don't like talking to the government, so I don't talk to the government.
yes, that's definitely true. That's really true, and it's very interesting to know that they could even compromise it down to we could we could be data. It's it's comical, actually.
I mean, DNA is basically human data.
It is.
It brings back whatever you have, and my favorite thing is a lot of people don't understand this, but I think that grandparents, they'll have a taste for something, and then the grandchild will have that same taste, and they'll be
Yeah.
like, they loved it as much as you did. I think it's a DNA imprint. The DNA imprints into the next generation, and some people get some parts and other people get other parts, and some people don't get any parts until maybe 4 or 5 generations later.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%.
So where did the like at what point in your life did you come up with the faith you have, believing in yourself and believing that you have that kingdom of heaven within aspect?
um, so, oof. This is something that I don't really talk about with people, but I had something spiritual happen to me when I was 12 years old. Actually had a couple things happen right around that time. And I actually thought that was kind of funny because that's when, the age of accountability is 12
Mhm.
years old. And I had some things that people might consider to be supernatural, so to say, happen to me. And, or other people would say it was God or it was angels or it was energy. But I was kind of able to move something by thinking about it when I was 12 years old. I had a piece of paper on my dresser in my bedroom, and I kept looking at it, and I started looking at it and doing making it move, and I didn't realize what I was doing until after I did it, and it scared me really bad. And then I thought, wait a minute, this is crazy. And it really just kind of freaked me out. And I mean, some people may not believe that. Some people may think I'm a literal nut for saying that, but I don't care. I know it happened. I saw it. And then when I was a little bit older, my brother had went into the military, and it was during Desert Storm. And when that happened, I really missed him because we were best friends, and I was heartbroken. And he went over there, and I was really afraid that he would have to fight, and that bothered me. I was very aware at that age, that he may have to kill people and children and whatever, because those are very real things. And I was super terrified that that would mess him up permanently. So I would go sleep in his bed and, just to smell him, I guess, because his room still kind of smelled like him. Like, boy. And I would go in there and sleep. And one night, was, well, I thought it was daytime, so there was just a ton of sun pouring in the window, and we actually lived out in the woods, so this was blinding me. And I kind of look up, and there is what I will deem to be an angel over me. And this being was nothing but pure light, and the most beautiful being I have ever seen. Her, I'm gonna say her because it looked female to me. Her hair was like long and flowing, and everything about this being was waving like this. Even the garment, and the garment would look to be like what I would consider biblical, as in the dye and the style. So I don't know if what was going on, but I knew this person was above me, and I could see all this light, and I had been super worried about my brother, and I felt a huge sense of peace come over me about him. And I went I kind of came to, or whatever you'd say, and it was completely dark in the room, and it was actually dark outside. It was nighttime. So I didn't know what exactly had happened, but I got up and ran to my mother's bedroom, and I shook my mom. She was asleep, and I told her, I said, "Mom, mom, mom, I saw an angel, and like this is what they looked like, and their hair was flowing, their garment was flowing, and I could smell her." And my mom sat completely up in the bed and said, "What do you mean you could smell her?" And she just said, "Do you know that that's like," and I don't know what verse it is. She said, "That's in the Bible." And she like got her Bible out and started going through it, trying to find this verse about being able to smell the angels or the angelical people beings and that kind of thing. And so once she found out that I had done that, I had a neighbor, and I can't remember exactly what his denomination was, but whatever he believed in, he said that if you had an angel come to you like that, you were automatically going to the kingdom of heaven. So it was a surreal experience, but the thing about smelling this being is it she smelled like, at that age, this is how I explained it, she smelled like baby powder. And this is what I told my mother because she asked me what she smelled like, and I said like baby powder, but a million times better. And that was, as a child, was the only way I could explain it. So after those things happened to me, I realized there were things that we just didn't understand that were outside of the realm of what we could conceive and perceive.
So how did that lead you to that thought process that you have now?
I I really just felt like it was people trying to force me into being controlled, what I was seeing at church versus what I had experienced outside of that. And I knew that we were so much more than what they even understood. So I guess I just have a completely different perspective of what an angel is. To me, it was like pure energy and completely different than what I would have even began to see or understand.
And that's interesting. I think too, me personally, once God had opened my eyes to what the truth was, it put
Mhm.
me on a different, I don't want to say level like I'm higher, but on a different understanding. And there's
Right.
power in that understanding that I don't think a lot of Christians really get because
Mhm.
they trap themselves in this thought process of, well, I'm going to have to either do this or I'm going to hell. I don't have a choice. I have to do this or hell, hell, hell. And I think that blinds a lot of people.
Right. Yes, and like I see all of that, and then to add to that, to me, like what you see and what I see are virtually the same, except I see it as energy, and
Of course.
that's literally the best way I can explain it. Um, and I literally see it and can feel it like it's almost a whole vibration for me. And as woo woo as that sounds, I'm being as serious as I possibly can. Um, like I will go listen to different megahertz and hertz of music and stuff like that just because I feel like it elevates me. Um, I will I perceive light differently, I think, than some people do. I perceive color a whole lot different because, like, this room's pretty dark, but to me, this is almost blinding. I have a really hard time being outside. The color is almost blinding to me. So I don't know if it, I don't know if it's truly, you know, almost feels like it's different levels. I don't know exactly how to explain it. Almost like, well, people talk about portaling and different dimensions. It's almost like energy and dimensional to me. And
It
that's
could be too that you perceive light differently in terms of um, given the spiritual aspect, because to me, your room is dark. Like,
it's
so to me, to you, my room is probably like absolutely
yeah,
way too bright, right?
it's blinding to me. And I've always been that way even as a child. Like I will go outside and walk around in the dark even right now and I can see in the dark. I like it.
And I have to wonder too if that's not a trait, because from different things I've read, our ancestors, they could see better in the dark because their eyes could acclimate faster because there wasn't as much light pollution and there wasn't as much like artificial light. But
Yeah.
being that there was such, and their brains had to react quicker because of the dangers that they were in, so it makes sense that you want to adapt, that you have to adapt. If you don't adapt, you're going to die. And then here comes the light, and the light's like, well, now I don't have to adapt. I can get this big old flashlight, pull it out, boom, we're good to go. So
Right.
it's interesting, and I think that's a genetic trait. I think a lot of these things
Very
that,
possible, especially being in one of the darker areas of the United States as far as light
yes,
pollution. That would make
yes.
logical sense for sure. Yeah.
And I'm a person that believes in both God and mathematics, because I think mathematics and mathematics are the proof that God exists to me. Everything is at a perfect space, everything is at a perfect aspect, a ratio, the golden ratio, the
Hmm.
Fibonacci spirals. Everything is in a perfect synchronicity. Whew, that's a word sometimes for me. I apologize. Um,
I would agree with
so
that.
so that's why I believe the way I do, because I can see it with my eyes. I can see if the planets would just go off their axis a bit, it would wreck the entire solar system, and it doesn't.
Right.
So to me, that's God holding everything in place so that it doesn't go, off the rails, as it
Right.
were. Now, how has to the people that how do I put this? To the people that know how you believe,
Hmm.
what are the reactions from those people? Is it like, your hair's on fire when you tell these people these things?
Yeah. For the most part, most of the people that I'm close to, that know, they are all about it. They enjoy talking about it and they're very interested in how I believe and why I believe the way I believe. And most of them can they if they don't understand it exactly, they can at least kind of wrap their head around what I am saying. So and then I have probably other people that are very close to me that believe pretty much the same too, which is, I mean, that may be some of why I believe the way that I do, but we I do have a sibling that I sit down with and have pretty philosophical conversations, and that's good for me because that's the kind of person I need in my life to be able to express, some of the things that I believe. And the thing about it is like talking about the visitation from the being or angel or whatever energy person, whatever being or whatever you want to call it. I can talk to that person about it and they understand it, but they know for a fact that I'm not lying to them because I would not lie to this person. So I guess they know me so well, they know that I wouldn't lie. So it's interesting to sit down and talk about those kinds of things. And, just spiritual experiences and other experiences that are, you know, otherworldly. I mean, those are the kinds of conversations that we have. And then just by that, I feel like, energetically, I have drawn people. I'm going to say that drawn people to me that are more like me. I have several friends that, they may not believe exactly like me, but they believe similarly enough that they understand it.
And I
So,
respect it, even if I don't believe the same as you.
right.
I understand. Like I get the concepts because the concepts are they're not, these aren't new concepts. These are ancient concepts that a lot of civilizations used to push themselves harder and faster.
So, I feel like that's another thing that's, I know that I have read things about people talking about people leaving Christianity, and I feel like they have been pushed to that direction because they've not been given good answers, or the church has been literally a way to hide evil and they've been betrayed by the church or abused by the church, and these people have been literally pushed away. And I feel like they know that some of the old things seem to work. They know about those things because they read about them, and I think that's why they're being pushed back to the old ways of religion. I think that there's a lot of people that are, really into like witchcraft and stuff right now, and it's a popular thing, but there are also people who are really intrigued by it and are going back to those ways because they have been so abused by the church, in some way, shape, or form. The place that was supposed to love them did not love them. It chewed them up and spit them out.
And as a person who has went to more churches than I can count, I understand this. It didn't, and it was a very much opposite effect for me personally. It pushed me closer to God and Christ, like those two,
Right.
not man. It pushed me to that aspect and not man, because I'm watching people, I'm watching these preachers, and they're telling me that I'm going to go to hell, but their kids are heathens, and they're not controlling them. And so I'm reading the Bible too, and I'm like, why aren't you controlling your kids? Where is your interpreter for the tongues that you are speaking? You are taking a beautiful book, in my eyes, the greatest book of all time, and you're perverting it. You are destroying it. You are doing things that are an abomination to the God that I worship, and I don't tolerate it. I refuse to tolerate it because that's not what Christ would want for us. He wants us to be kind. He wants us to be accepting of people. And here's something else that a lot of people don't know. There's scientifically backed witchcraft aspects in terms of poultices, medicines, things that have to be at a certain temperature in order to heal the body, because that's what herbs and things like that do. It's not just somebody standing out in the middle of the yard with a sorcerer's hat pointing a wand at the moon and saying, all right, moon, give me all the moon energy so I can fight the demons. It's
Right.
grinding of mortal and pestle. I have Appalachian roots on my mother's side. So these
Right.
are things that I know all about.
So yes, and that's speaking of that, as an Appalachian person, those things are not lost on me because even people, they hide it here, but it's really funny. They will do things that would be considered to be witchcraft and do them and use a Bible verse, and then it it will change that situation. I have seen people who are able to remove warts off of people. And there are a couple different reasons why I think that that stuff works. I think there's, first of all, there's energy in it, and then there's energy in believing it, and
Yes.
then, you know, then there's also when those people do it, I've seen it done. They use silicic acid when they do this, so that's probably helpful as well. I
That's
mean,
probably what's taking it off.
I've seen that, but I've also seen people lay hands on people and make them quit bleeding. I have literally seen this for myself. I know someone that can do it. I know people that can do it now, and I know people that could do it in my past that have passed on. But I've seen it work, and I have friends here in this area that, are Appalachian granny women. And, a lot of people are very interested in Appalachian people and culture. It's almost like we're, we're not even, we're the last unknown thing in the United States, and it's interesting for them.
It's
So,
very much Native American aspect, like, oh, you're from where? Oh, you're exotic. And I'm like,
yes,
I'm like, they live in mountains and places that are hard to live in, so they have to make a living. They're not these like
yes,
secret dwarf people or elven people, you know.
yes,
And
and
because like I said, I have family from there, so I've been there. I've been through the hollers. I've been in the hollers, places that most people don't go, and they're just normal people. They're just trying to eke out an existence because it's hard.
right,
It's not like here where all the roads are flat. I can go wherever I want. I can go right now to the store because the roads are all flat. So there's more people. But when you get into places and you get into old places that have existed and Native Americans went through there, the Native Americans wouldn't even live in West Virginia. They would pass through it because there were giants there.
right,
This is recorded, and they would find giant bones and giant skeletons, and
yeah.
100% they existed. There's no way they didn't. And so life's going to be different. Life's going
Well,
to be a lot different.
yeah, so there are a lot of interesting things like that here, a lot of interesting stories about those types of things, medicines, cryptoids. I mean, the people here are literally exotic, even though they're in America. They're interesting.
Yes,
And
because they live. There's two worlds. There's the world that existed pre-industrial revolution,
right,
um, and then there's the world that exists after the pre-industrial revolution. Before, you had more tales of fey folk, fairies, and as a person who believes in God, I can't say that doesn't exist. I can't say that because I have no physical proof that it doesn't. And
right,
when you have people that number in more than just like 100 people, when you're having like thousands upon thousands of accounts of this happening, you have to take it into account. You have to say, okay, I have to look at this because now it's not just like
there
three
has
people that were drunk, it's a
right,
thousand people.
there has to be something to it if there's that many
Yes,
people reporting it. And
yes, yes,
another another thing about, the mountains and the people here, they didn't have anything. They were lucky to have clothes. They were
yeah,
lucky to have shoes. They lived in, cabins and things that had no heat, and they heated it with firewood if they had it, and just stuff like that. But, they didn't have anything, but they had their faith. So,
yes,
you know, they had faith in that prayer or that poultice or that Appalachian granny witch woman, that, and that's what they put their faith in, and they were banking on it because that's all they had. So what more, there's nothing else you can ask for if your faith's that strong.
and I think that is where we will end it for this episode. We're gonna You're gonna come back because there's more that we're gonna have to talk about. I didn't even think we even touched on.
It
I think we just got to the surface level. We haven't even gone deeper than that yet, and I think there's a lot more we could talk about.
Yeah, that we haven't talked about the cryptids yet here.
No. Um, So where can people find your show, and tell us a little bit about your show?
Okay, so I broadcast out of WMMT, which is in Whitesburg, Kentucky. It's about an hour from where I live, but I do drive there. It's WMMT.org/listen. And you can listen on Monday nights, Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. till midnight. And we play like an eclectic mix of some pretty heavy stuff. And if you're into the heavy, you'll love it. Um, that you can check me out there. I also have a Facebook. You're welcome to follow me on Trappalachia on Facebook, and I can send you the link to put on your YouTube.
Please,
Yeah,
please.
yeah,
I would love that.
yep.
Thank you so much. I
That's
appreciate you. This has been a long time coming. We have been friends for almost 5 years now, 6 years. I don't know. It just
yours, yeah.
so
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to make my way out there at this point. We've been friends that long. I need to see because one of the things I always wanted to see was that Appalachian uh I don't want to say darker side, but more mysterious side because I'm fascinated with it personally. I think it's a very interesting um aspect of American life that doesn't really get the respect it rightfully deserves.
right. There are a lot of
And
brilliant people here.
so see
Brilliant.
now you got people I can talk to. Now we're good to go. Now we're good to go.
You're welcome to come.
Is there anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I mean, I really just think we scratched the surface. There's more to it. But it's pretty complex. I have a lot of very different views than most people in my area, and I don't tell people, so they'll be very surprised to know. They'll be like, "Yeah, we'll definitely be avoiding that lady now."
We definitely are not going to talk to her. That's fine. I'll talk to her then. That's fine. We'll all talk to her. So, but thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and you are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.